What is the future of America's relationship to Europe? I mean, shouldn't NATO be disbanded? Shouldn't we get the hell out of NATO? And what do we care about the EU? It's hopeless.
Well, I personally believe the European Union is on the path towards irrelevance, and you will see Europe redefine itself as a collective of sovereign states instead of subordinate nations to this imaginary being called the European Union. NATO, likewise, is an unsustainable organization. I think that the collapse will come sooner than later and be directly linked to what happens in Ukraine. NATO cannot survive. People tend to forget that NATO had been dealt a fatal blow by Afghanistan and what the United States did to NATO in Afghanistan. We abandoned NATO. Nobody talks about that, how when Trump made the decision and Biden made the decision to get out, they just left the United States went around to Europe and did the old tin cup routine saying, raise money to keep your things going. Raise money. Oh yeah, we're out of here. Good luck. And that was a humiliation for NATO. And this is one of the reasons why they immediately turned their eyes on Russia to define Russia as this existential threat. Because if they hadn't, and NATO started talking about the reality of the diseased relationship between the United States and Europe, the United States and NATO, which existed even back then, the organization couldn't survive. So they manufactured a conflict in Ukraine with Russia to justify their continued existence. But now they've literally gone all in on a losing hand. They're not going to win this. And when Ukraine collapses, that's literally the end of NATO. It will not survive the collapse of Ukraine.
I'm intrigued by the EU silencing this retired Swiss military intelligence officer, Colonel Jacques Bau. What can you tell us about this? They silenced him, meaning he's not allowed to speak out. He can't travel. They have seized his assets and his bank accounts, and we are told he has no judicial recourse to the seizure. How can that possibly be?
Well, because Europe is a dictatorship. I mean, it's a police state in every way, shape, and form. First of all, that which they have accused him of being a Russian asset, of, parroting Russian position, it's just an outright lie. One of the things that, made Jacques Beau what he was the fact that he used Western research to make the points that he made. It's just that the conclusions he's reached were uncomfortable for people who were not paying attention to the facts. But this man didn't travel to Russia. This man didn't appear on Russian media outlets. He didn't, meet with Russian officials to get the Russian perspective. He simply delved into Western data to point out the vacuous nature and reality of Western policy, which made him in many ways more dangerous than people like me who, extensively draw upon Russianary expertise and the Russian perspective. He draws upon the West exclusively, and the conclusions he reached are unimpeachable. And therefore, the only way they could deal with this man is to silence him in the most, the only other thing that would be worse than this is actually imprisoning him and killing him. But they have literally sought to deplatform him, delegitimize him, and to destroy him economically. If the Swiss government doesn't do something about this, then let me put it this way. I've just published a book, and it's been put out in Spanish and German and some other European languages as well. And I was supposed to go to Spain and Germany and maybe some other places in March. And when Jacques Beau, when this happened, I received sound legal advice not to go anywhere near Europe right now. I definitely will never go to the United Kingdom. I would be arrested on the spot. They would treat me more harshly than they treated George Galloway. And now the notion of me traveling to Europe, I used to go to a Swiss conference every year. Wonderful group of people. I'm not going to Switzerland now, not because they're doing nothing about Jacques Beau. And if they're going to treat one of their own, a national resource, a national hero, like this, what would they do to an American who has been singled out by the European Union, by the Ukraine? The Ukrainians have singled me out for death. I got a bomb threat in the mail the other day. The post service isn't taking it seriously, but I do. And this is the world we live in right now. And Americans need to understand that this freedom of speech issue. A lot of people are like, why does J.D. Vance, stick his nose in Europe's business? Because freedom of speech is absolute and universal. And when you start silencing people anywhere in the world, it resonates globally, especially when you silence a voice of reason, an intelligent voice, a fact-based voice, a voice that has been proven factually correct across the board. It means you're silencing the truth. And when you silence the truth, what's that say about the quality of the life and existence that we collectively lead?